Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started because it's 5:33 on my clock, and I want to respect everyone's time. So I have a little bit of a script that I need to read. First of all, full disclaimer, this is the first time I'm running my first Zoom meeting. So I am sure I'm going to screw something up, so I apologize up front. First of all, happy Earth Day, everyone. So I want that message to go out. As a friendly reminder, all of you are currently muted for right now. And of course, the program, as I said, is being recorded. Um, Feel free to put anything in the chat room, to ask questions or anything like that. And when you'll be speaking, if you could just unmute yourself, that would be ideal. We'll try to keep the feedback down as much as possible. And hopefully all of this will work. As I indicated before, we have some wonderful presenters, and they're going to give their viewpoints and experiences regarding the importance of scholarship within the college. So let me introduce the individuals who will be speaking, and then we'll just kind of let them tell their stories, so to speak. First, I'll have Dr. Jenny Denyer, Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of Teacher Education, tell us a little bit about how important scholarshiping is for obviously students in general within, of course, the department and the college. And then we have Ms. Ella Schluter. Did I get that right? Hopefully, yes. And Ella is a very special story because she will be coming this fall, and she's an adopted Herb Scholar because she's actually a presidential awardee. So she has a presidential scholarship. We also have Ms. Chelsea Neff, who is a senior, yay, AYA Language Arts major, who obviously is graduating in May. And she can't wait to get out there and start doing her stuff. So that's great. And speaking of which, we've got Mr. Joe. Let me get this right, Joe. Cocadorfer? Is that, hopefully that's close. He is a former Herb Scholar, and he's actually teaching mathematics at St. Francis in Toledo. So that's our distinguished panel for tonight. So Jenny, I'd like for you to kind of start us off by giving us the general context and background to, obviously the importance of really scholarshiping for the department and the college in general, and then these wonderful young people who are connected. Jenny.
Thank you, Dean Whitty. I've been thinking a lot about scholarships recently, and it took me back to thinking about
get on out of here. I gotta go.
It helps. I started thinking about all the wonderful opportunities that I have as a faculty member and now as a department chair in the Judith Herb College of Education. I have the opportunity to work with phenomenal faculty, administrators, students at the undergrad level, the master's level, and the doctoral level. I get to work on developing programs and curriculum, all of which are very exciting parts of my job. But one of the things that I think I cherish the most are the experiences that I've had serving on scholarship committees. It's just, I was going to say, I can't begin to describe it. I can, and I'm going to. I think that the whole idea that students have the opportunity to apply for scholarships, fund college careers. If we just start right there as a critical element. I think about the work of my colleagues and I on scholarships committees. And one of the committees I serve on is the scholarship committee that thinks about how to award kind of our general scholarship funds. And I want to paint a picture for you so you get a sense of what that whole day is like, because we spend a day, sometimes 2 days, making decisions about how to award scholarships. So picture pre-COVID, picture a conference room, and there are about 8 of us with stacks of scholarship applications about this thick, sometimes more like this. And we've read through these applications. And on the day that we're making the awards, someone says, okay, the next scholarship is scholarship XYZ, and that needs to go to a special education major who is a junior. And so we all go through our packs of applications and we remind ourselves of the information that's in there. And believe me when I tell you, there's lots of information in there. We've got GPAs, we've got SAT scores or ACT scores, we've got applications that include essays. And I want to talk just a minute about those essays. When we're working on this particular scholarship committee, we have the opportunity to hear the stories of our students in what they write, in what they tell us on paper. And so we read these stories. And it is not unusual for, there's kind of silence as everybody's reviewing these applications. And all of a sudden, someone will say, oh, wait, you have to listen to this. And they read an excerpt from an essay. And then it goes back and people will go, oh, interesting. Wow. And then it gets silent again. And then all of a sudden you hear, wait, oh, you gotta hear this. And somebody reads another excerpt. And we go on like this as we try to, as we deliberate about who should receive the scholarship that we're considering. There's so much to consider, all of that, all of those numbers I mentioned, but we pay a lot of attention to those stories that come through in the essays. A lot of our students write about in those essays, for example, why they want to be teachers and how the scholarship will help them become a teacher. Sometimes they'll write about what the scholarship will mean to them, mean to their family. Some of our students are first in their family to go to college. Others might be the youngest of 6 kids. One of the things that always strikes me as we go through this whole deliberation process is the sincerity, the eagerness of students to become teachers, and how they sincerely are looking for help to make their dreams come into reality. I also serve on another scholarship committee. I serve on the Herb Scholarship Committee. And in fact, many years ago, I served on the first Herb Scholarship Committee, and I have since returned back to that committee for the last couple of years. I feel like it is to serve on the first committee, so is it to serve on this committee as well. Now, the difference for this committee is that we have an opportunity to interview the finalists who are going to become Herb Scholars. And so we set up a day We put together a list of questions, and we do interviews the last 2 years via WebEx, um, not in person, but that's worked quite as well. And now we get to hear the stories of the people who are applying to become Herb Scholars. And that's really exciting. We get an opportunity to hear again about their stories, about why they want to become teachers, why this scholarship, what will that help them to do? We get to hear about how they're active in their community, about how they envision their role as a teacher, all kinds of things. The stories have an opportunity, or with the stories, the students really come alive. We get to the end of that day when we're thinking about going for others. And invariably, someone will say, "Oh, I wish we could just give scholarships to all of them." And yet we know that's not possible. And so we make decisions. I think you'll understand that sentiment of, gosh, I wish we could give scholarships to everybody. When you hear today the stories of 3 young people, as Dean Whitty said, one, Ella Schluter, who is going to be joining us for the first time in the fall, August of 2021. You're also going to hear from Chelsea Neff, soon to be graduate Chelsea Neff. Absolutely, Chelsea, absolutely. And you're also going to hear from Joe Cocadorfer, who is a former Herb Scholar. I guess it's kind of like if you're once a Herb Scholar, always a Herb Scholar, not a former Herb Scholar. But we're going to hear from Joe, who was a Herb Scholar, has now graduated, and has moved into that realm of having his own classroom and being able to teach. These 3 young people are very different. They're going to have different stories. You'll hear different stories. But the most important thing is that they all, and that which they all share, is they have been supported in one way or another by scholarship dollars from and through the College of Education. I could go on, but you really don't want to hear from me. What we want to hear is how these scholarship funds have been helpful, been important to our 3, I keep wanting to say graduates or students, but I can't. So our 3 speakers this afternoon. And so I actually think, Ella, I'm going to start with you, since you're going to be our incoming, our youngest, our newest student here in the Judith Herb College of Education. And as the dean alluded to, Ella has an interesting story to tell, because where she started out didn't end up where she's still here at UT, and that's the important thing. But so let me stop talking and let Ella say a bit. So Ella, if you'll unmute yourself, and I'm going to let you speak for a few minutes. If you'll tell us your story about scholarships and UT.
Hi, as Dr. Denyer said, my name is Ella Schluter. I'll be an incoming freshman. I was a recipient of both the Presidential Scholar and the Judith Herb Scholar. And so my story has a lot to do about making some tough decisions and figuring out which scholarship would be best suited for me, and my goals going forward. And so a little bit about how I decided to go into teaching. I'm going to be an art education major this upcoming fall. And I came to this decision in a rather roundabout way. Um, for my entire life, I've always been involved with many disparate passions. At different points in my life, I had considered becoming a scientist or a mathematician or an artist or a dancer or a singer or an actress. And so many different passions were all kind of competing for attention in my head. And I loved them all and I participated in them all in and out of school. And so I knew as I started like my junior and senior year that I would have to make some tough decisions and narrow things down. So I took a step back, looked at all my curricular and extracurricular activities, and started to find correlations between all of my passions. And in finding those connections between my passions, I discovered that when I was at my best, at my brightest, at my happiest, was when I was not just participating in a given activity, but actively teaching others and helping them participate in the activity as well. So whether it be in religion or art or math, I just really loved helping and growing and cultivating understanding in my peers and my students. And so that is how I came to decide on teaching. And from there, I kind of narrowed it down to a particular subject that I knew would have the most longevity for me going forward. So I had to decide on a subject that I knew I would be able to study for 4 years for my bachelor, for even more years for a master's and a doctorate. And so I decided on art education because it is something that I can talk about to the end of time. Um, and something that I truly love and I know I will continue to love forever and ever and ever. And so that is how I decided on my career as a teacher. And next, I decided where I would go to learn to become a better teacher. And so I actually toured here at Toledo, Ohio, in my junior year. And it was so serendipitous. I decided to go on a tour completely on a whim. I had a day off of school for like teacher development. And so me and my mom looked around to see if any colleges were open for tours that day. And U Toledo was. And we just decided like the day before to just drive down and see what was up. And I immediately fell in love. I fell in love with the campus, the beautiful Gothic architecture. I fell in love with all the professors and students I met that day. And I went home and told my mom, that is the school I want to go to. How can I go to this school? And so that is how I ended up applying for the Presidential Scholarship and the Judith Herb Scholarship. I am one of 5 children, and we all live on my father's single income. And so I knew there was no way for my parents to help support paying for my college. And I knew that was going to be my responsibility going forward. And so plan A was, fingers crossed, get a Fulbright scholarship. And plan B would have been to go to a local community college where I could commute there and it would be more affordable and I could kind of work my way through college. So luckily for me and for my plan A, the University of Toledo had not one, but 2 Fulbright scholarships that I could apply for and participate in. And so I did it. I applied for both, got an interview for both. And throughout the interview process for both of these scholarships, it really reinforced what I love about UT. I had been to a couple of college interviews before this, and all of them seemed a little awkward, a little off balance. There was a disconnect between the committee and the candidates who were trying to get the scholarships. And that all changed kind of with the UT scholarships. I felt like in the interview room, in the interview Zoom call and WebMX call, I truly felt a connection with all of the professors, with Mrs. Judith Erb, with everybody on the committee. They were truly devoted to listening to my story and to sharing their own stories and kind of building a foundation that we could work towards in the future. And I appreciated that so much. And so at the end of the interview processes, I was like, oh, please, 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 please. This is so wonderful. I would love to go here. And the very next day, to my utter shock and awe, I was called by Mrs. Judith Erb herself, and she told me that I had gotten the Judith Erb scholarship, and I was so shocked. I was actually speechless. I must have seemed so much more socially awkward than I did in my interview, because I was truly, truly speechless, over the moon and back. And of course, to my even greater shock, a couple weeks later, I was notified that I had also received the presidential scholarship. And I was just elated. I got to go to the college of my dreams, and I had to make a difficult decision. And what this decision came down to, I knew I wanted to be involved with the Honors College. I knew I was going into art education and would be intimately involved with the Judith Erb College of Education. And so what it came down to was the financial minutia of the different scholarships. And I'm from Michigan, and the presidential scholarship covers the difference of my out-of-state tuition. And so that is the one I ended up selecting. And so to kind of sum everything up, the scholarships that I was able to apply for allowed me to go to the college of my dreams, to study the field of my dreams, and to pursue the career of my dreams with the help of amazing, amazing people who I know will support me in every step of my journey.
Thank you, Ella, very much. We appreciate hearing your story. Chelsea.
Hello, can you hear me okay? All right, so I'm a senior at the College of Ed, and I am so ready to graduate, but I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the scholarships that I received. So I've always been one to love school, from preschool all the way up to present day senior year of college. I've always loved to learn. I love being around friends at school. However, starting at the age of 12, school became my safe place. So some backstory, I grew up an only child. So cue the, you must have been spoiled since you're an only child comments, but that is not true. That's not true at all. So I started kindergarten, and week 2 of kindergarten, my dad passed away at the age of 43 from a heart attack. And so my mom suffered from severe depression and untreated bipolar disorder after that. And then at 5.5 years old, I would be the one getting myself up for school, grabbing a Pop-Tart for breakfast and running to the bus. But that was my normal routine. So then flash forward to middle school, my mom started dating this guy, and it was extremely abusive, mentally, physically, verbally, and sexually abusive. I would go to bed at night and pray to God to never settle living this way and to give me the strength to keep pushing forward. So in high school, I would sign up for as many extracurriculars as possible to avoid being at home, because I didn't want to be in that unhealthy environment. I was in choir, theater, track and field, and I also signed up for community college classes at night. So my teachers believed in me when nobody at home believed in me. So when thinking about careers, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. English was my favorite subject. I could write down how I was feeling, express myself. I loved to read. I could spend hours reading a book and just distract myself from what was going on at home. But I knew college would be an expense and not an easy one coming from a welfare family. But luckily, my high school teachers took the time to review how to write a college application. Scott Earl taught me how to write a scholarship essay. Lisa Hartz from Bedford also wrote scholarship recommendation letters. She taught me to just keep pushing forward. And then Debbie McMahon showed our class, our Algebra 2 class, the U Toledo scholarship chart, which was a chart that future Rockets could see how much scholarship money they'd receive based on SAT scores as well as GPA. So all three of those educators I just listed are UT alumni. So flash forward to now, all 4 years of undergrad at UT, I've received a scholarship. I'm graduating on May 8th with nearly no debt at all. So I'm very blessed. I am finishing my student teaching. I teach 11th grade American literature at Wake High School. I absolutely love it. And my dream is becoming a reality. So thank you, U Toledo. Thank you to the high school educators. Thank you to the professors at U Toledo. Two that I can mention, Martha Champa and Dr. Cahus. I've just loved my experience at UT, and I cannot wait to display my 4 scholarship certificates in my classroom to encourage other students.
Thanks so much, Chelsea. You have to let us know where you end up finding a position. So then what we can do is we can send student teachers to you and you can continue this whole cycle of UT grads kind of taking over the world.
Thank
That's
you.
my dream. Good, good. We look forward to hearing from you. We seem to be waiting for Joe at the moment. And so Dean Whitty, I'm gonna give it back to you in case you have some things that you wanted to talk about. And then when Joe pops on, I've just sent him an email. When he joins us, we'll mute you and go to him.
That sounds very fair.
Okay.
So obviously 2 great students, 2 great stories. Joe is in that group as well. And I'm sure if he can jump back on, he'll share his story. Let me give you a couple of, I guess, information bits, because this relates to their stories in particular, especially around scholarshiping. And I think it's important to have context here, because it's clear with with the vast majority of individuals that apply both to the university and to our college in particular that finances are an issue. Support is just that. It's just tough to kind of make ends meet. It is not uncommon for our students to work 1, if not 2 jobs while they're taking classes. So that's it's just the reality of what many of our students face in trying to pursue their degree and their dreams as being hopefully a future teacher. But the college in particular is really a foundation for them. Let me give you a figure. Now, this is just from the college, but we gave out $357,000 to our students this year in scholarship, awards, and support. And that's beyond what would be happening for the university. We are blessed to have a very strong donor and friends of the college support base, and they are very generous with their support, which allows us to maintain a number of scholarships and other components that really allow us to do what we do. So just realize how much that matters, just with the two individuals that we've heard from just moments ago. And another little fact, and then I think Joe has joined us, so we're going to switch back and have Jenny introduce. But approximately 70% of all of our students receive some kind of scholarship support. So that gives you some idea of how important this is for our students and what it allows them to do as part of their dreams and hopefully becoming a future educator. So Jenny, I'm gonna turn it back to you so you can introduce Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So our third, the elder statesman of the group, Joe has graduated from UT. Joe is currently teaching. That's all part of his story. And so Joe, I'm going to ask you in just a minute to unmute yourself and tell us a bit about why teaching for you, and how did becoming a Herb Scholar, what did that mean for you? And then, because you are the elder statesman, I'm wondering if you might finish tonight by offering Ella, who is she's actually entering presidential scholar, but had the Herb Scholarship at one time. If you have any advice for her in terms of her next 4 years. And our other scholarship recipient, Chelsea Neff, will be graduating in May 8th to be exact, not that she's counting the hours, but May 8th. And she is an AYA language arts teacher. So you may have some advice for Chelsea about her first year of teaching. So I'm going to stop talking, Joe. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I'm going to let you tell your story.
All right, thank you. Yes, as Dr. Denyer said, my name is Joe Cocadorfer. I apologize for being late. I had the impression it was 6 o'clock and I was cooking dinner for the group of guys I live with. So I'm like, 6 o'clock, perfect. So yes, I received the Herb Scholarship back in 2016. I graduated high school in 2016. And receiving that scholarship was really, really important to me. And it provided so many opportunities that I never thought I would have. The first thing, and I don't know what they're doing now, maybe somebody could tell me. I had the experience to travel the world with the Camp Adventure Project, the program. And from what I know, it did kind of dissolve. I don't know if they're starting it back up again. But this opened the door. I never would have done that had I not received the Herb Scholarship, because as I know this meeting is kind of about, scholarships are so important for students at the university, especially education majors. You know, we're going to graduate and we're not going to, you know, what do they say, make the big bucks. And so it's so important, because had I not, I would have been working my butt off all summer and not experiencing new things, new cultures. And so with that said, the Camp Adventure program, I'm sure Mrs. Herb has figured out a way to still make sure you guys have those experiences. I don't know what they're doing. I'd like to hear. But Camp Adventure taught me one very important thing, and it's to like be yourself and be humble. And what I mean by that is I got to learn how to kind of just be goofy and outgoing with any group of people I come in contact with. Where I always called myself outgoing, and I thought about it the other day when Dr. Denyer asked me, like, what did I learn from this experience? And I'm like, well, I'm outgoing. Then I realized I'm only outgoing with the people I know and I like. And so Camp Adventure let that door, or open the door for me, to kind of, be myself. I have a quick story about, I was on a military base in Japan, and we had an aquatics program, and I was in the pool with the kids, and not to get too much information, but I have chest hair, and one of the kids was like, "You're hairy, you're a gorilla or something." And he had a little superhero name, and he said he's Ant Boy, and so then I became Gorilla Man. And so we would run around the center, and I'd be chasing him, he'd be chasing me as Ant Man and Gorilla Boy, or Ant Boy and Gorilla Man. And just kind of those goofy things. And I have coworkers that are looking at me. I have military parents coming in watching this happen, and it just was one of those things where I'm making the world for that kid, just by playing with him in this goofy way. And then now I'm working with older kids at St. Francis, the neighbors of Toledo on Bancroft, and I have sophomores and seniors, and I have had the opportunity to kind of be goofy with them in similar ways. I've gone on retreats with the students. St. Francis, for those who don't know, is a Catholic school, so I've kind of entered the campus ministry aspect, and I get to play board games. I get to be goofy, while still maintaining the respect of the teacher. It's amazing how they can still respect me, but they also and make myself approachable. And I really credit that to my education at Toledo, and the Herb Scholarship Program. So congrats to those who received it. Congrats, Ella. Is it Ella? It is a great program, and the college is great. I'm impartial to mathematics. Dr. Shockey and Dr. Johanning are great, and they gave us opportunities to. I remember one opportunity to work with kids at a elementary level, where we're college math, high school math people, and it was kind of a cool opportunity to kind of let our guard down and be with the kids. So I give all the credit also to Dean Whitty and Dr. Denyer, and of course the alumni who support the college. We have some amazing professors, and I'm sure the others can speak to that as well. But yeah, that's how important the scholarship is to me, and I didn't realize until after I entered the workforce that it taught me so much.
So, Joe, what advice do you have for Chelsea as a first-year teacher now?
Oh boy. I think I've been told 100 times I entered teaching at the worst point possible. Luckily, I was in person almost all year. It was kind of a privilege that St. Francis offered. I don't know if I could have done a virtual year right out of college. The advice I was given was find and be around teachers that love what they do. And I've seen it already in my first year that there's some negative Nellies out there. And I have not attached myself to those people. And so it's build those relationships right away with the teachers. Of course, I don't know if you've applied for jobs also. Look for a school district that fits what you want to do with your life. I'm actually discerning the Catholic priesthood, so I chose a Catholic school. And so I work with Catholic priests. I live with Catholic priests. And so it really fit my niche. And that's my advice. I work with a math teacher. He has a master's in mathematics. He's a priest, and we have this love of math, but we also have this love for the faith, and how to share that with students. It's a cool balance. I get to have the faith conversations in class after they come from a theology class where they kind of talk about things they don't agree with. And so it kind of can decompress, and then we can get into the statistics, my favorite part of the day. So that's my advice, is find somebody at the school. It's so easy in education. And I hate to sound like a negative Nelly, but there's some pessimist teachers out there. This COVID year, I'm sure, did not help. But just keep fighting the good fight. I've enjoyed every bit of it. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at this moment in time. And so I've loved teaching. So but I think it's because I've surrounded myself with great educators. And I've also had my mom, who's currently a doctoral student in the College of Education at Toledo. She's been really good for me. We have the conversations and debates about education. I have a slightly different philosophy in some areas than she does. And so it's kind of, it's opened our eyes to new ideas from both of each other. So we just keep, how can I get this student to learn better? How do I deal with this parent? I had to go to advice from my mom, Father Zobler, who I spoke about. And so that's my advice, is find good people. I've stayed in touch with Dr. I call her Martha, Dr. Champa. She's a professor I'm sure, have you guys had Dr. Champa?
Yes, I love her.
I love Dr. Champa. So I've stayed in touch with her. I go to church with her. I run into her at church. And so these professors and these teachers I work with, it's just having good bonds that you can lean on when you're having tough times at the school. So that's my advice. Applying for colleges, I had it really easy because I was already in talks with St. Francis as I was graduating. But the application process is not really that bad. You can pretty much fill out one form and send it everywhere. So
Thank you.
yes.
Thanks so much, Joe. I have to tell you, Joe, that Ella, who is just starting, she contemplated teaching mathematics long and hard. So at some point you may hear from Ella as she thinks about adding math to her teaching repertoire. So thank you, Joe. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your story very much. Dean Whitty, there you have it.
Yes, wonderful. Actually, I do want to make a quick comment because Joe brought up Camp Adventure. And yes, it was officially phased out, but Sammy and I have gotten together, and he's got a plan, and we're working really hard on possibly bringing it back in some form and actually having it kind of housed within the college. No details to share at the moment, but we remain optimistic, and hopefully in a little bit of time, maybe less than a year, we'll have a pretty good idea of whether this will all work. So you'll just have to stay connected, and we'll keep you hopefully abreast of the potentially good news as we get all the details worked out. But as you know, Dr. Span's wonderful, and when he gets his mind set on something, it's going to happen. So I think we're all kind of expecting that to be really coming together in a relatively short period of time. So yes, the news is, it's very encouraging. So hopefully more students will be able to benefit from what you were able to participate in. So that would be great. Obviously, this speaks to the importance of how we support. And once again, we're very fortunate to have very dedicated donors and friends of the college. And I try my best to kind of keep them involved with what we are trying to work toward, what we need, or what we kind of anticipate we will need as we move forward. I would like to share at least some general categories of areas that we are really shooting for next year. Just want to kind of provide that information, as well as maybe answer any questions individuals might have surrounding those. So there are 5 big areas that we are going to hopefully address for next year. And if you allow me, I'm going to read a little bit of this, but then we can have questions and answers, conversation, and so forth. Not surprisingly, first and top on the list, of course, are student scholarships. I mean, it's just so obvious from the comments today that that makes such a difference in the lives of our students. Without question, single most demanding issue of our students is covering the cost of their education. And we really need to do as much as we can to make sure that is not an issue. Hopefully finances don't get in the way and we just allow them to really pursue their dreams. So that's going to be to be a continuing focus. Now, I am pleased to announce that we've kind of expanded our ability within that scholarship range to include a new designated scholarship, and it's the Educator Diversity Scholarship. So we've been able to use existing funds to really provide a tuition scholarship for students of color who are devoted to moving into the field of education. This is an important need. It's an underserved need, both in the region, the state, and the nation. So I'm pleased to announce that we have 3 students who are very well deserving of the scholarship. And we are working on the details to make sure that they will be coming this fall. That's all the funding we have at this point in time for those 3 students. But what's nice is that is, in essence, kind of confirmed support. So they will receive this help for the 4 years that they're here. And that's how I'd like to set up that scholarship. I'd like it to be guaranteed in a way so that we don't have to worry about finding funding. So we will only support individuals when we know we have enough to be able to cover what they would be needing for the time that they're here with us. So that will not change. We will always need scholarship help and support. And that continues to be something I talk to with everyone who will listen in regards to what we're trying to do here in the college. In addition to that, not surprisingly, we have technology enhancements and upgrades that we need to pay attention to. Dr. Denyer can attest to the fact that we were fortunate enough to do a technology classroom upgrade in 4700. And that's been wonderful. We would really like to use it. And we hope that the pandemic will allow us to do just that. However, we want to continue to enhance all of our classrooms. That is not cheap. It's always an ongoing process. And to be totally honest, technology is something that always needs to be technically upgraded. So even when you do set up a classroom as nice as we have or others, inevitably they will be needing continued upgrades and refinements. So that's important for us to be able to do that because we want our students to be able to walk out into the various school districts, understand the technology that's out there, be comfortable with using it. And I would even like it to the point that they could basically kind of continue to move that technology edge even further in the school districts that they eventually work in. So it's just not enough to know how to do everything you need to. It's also kind of pushing the envelope of trying to make it even more useful and effective for their teaching when they're out in their respective school districts. So that's a second area that we really want to try to find help and support in so we can continue to move that. This is a personal project of mine. It's relatively new. And I think it's important. I don't have any funding for it, so it is a little bit of a dream at the moment. But one thing I want to try to be able to do is to provide a free personal computer to every student who would come into the college. And that computer would stay with the students for hopefully their entire time with us, and then hopefully would go with them when they start their school career, wherever that's at. Now, that's what I want to do. I do not have the funding for that at this time, and that will require a major gift without question, because paying for, say, 100 computers every year is a little pricey, but I think that's just another way of helping to make this seamless for students. I like the idea of being able to kind of give them this computer and say, okay, you don't have to worry about it. You got what you need, and then you can just really focus on what you need to do in the classrooms. Plus, it would be great if we could continue to add every kind of software issue that possibly might be needed, and hopefully the use of very effective educational apps and those kinds of things that could matter both for their obviously phone as well as any kind of programs that they would want to use or take with them as they start their career. So that is a new project, but I will continue to work on that to see who would be interested in, and I think I might approach maybe corporations who might want to get behind something like that, because I think that would send a very important message, and I think would be really nice for our students to be able to have and not worry about, because once they start paying the tuition, the room and board, and that kind of thing, inevitably computer costs come up, and just having or being able to do that from the very start, I think would be wonderful. So that's another project. The fourth one is what I'm calling diversity education and development. And this is really about how we want to grow as a college. So clearly the need for continuing development, education in the areas of diversity and inclusion, and of course, anti-racism, they're really about and for everyone. So this training or this development idea would be cutting across all the faculty, all the staff, and students in some way, shape, or form. So we don't know what this is going to look like yet. We're still trying to put it all together. We have done some personal work in the college, but it's just a first step, so to speak. And we're looking at now ways to really enhance our understanding. And I think that will hopefully kind of tie in with perhaps providing additional resources, speakers, opportunities to really work with individuals and then utilize that understanding and training to really help each other, whether it's within the college, across the university, and especially for our teachers who are, it's imperative for them to understand how to really approach and understand everyone in their classroom. And I think this would be a great way and hopefully build somewhat of a confidence level for them so they could have those conversations and they could reach out and try to understand where individuals are coming from and hopefully just become a better teacher for that experience. So that is definitely an area that we want to pursue. And then the last one is really something I'm ashamed to admit, but we have very little funding, if any, for leadership training. Within the college, our administrative team, including myself, really have not received any substantial development in the area of leadership. And that's embarrassing to admit, but it is the reality. Our chairs deserve continuing leadership promotion. That's one of the toughest jobs that you can have. It requires a lot of skills. It requires a lot of aspects that really need mentoring and to be able to talk to individuals that have had similar experiences so they really get a sense of how to kind of do the work that they need to. So we need to have that kind of ability to provide that kind of work, certainly for our administrative team. I would argue that should also be the case for faculty and staff as well, because leadership, it really isn't a position, it's an action. It's something that you do, but you obviously need to start somewhere. And I think starting at least at the administrative level within the college would be a good step forward in regards to that. Now, don't misunderstand. I don't think you have training or have to have training to be a leader. But it certainly helps to be able to talk to and understand individuals who have gone through similar experiences or have that kind of background to help mentor individuals as they move along in their career. And that's definitely what I would like to pursue for a large variety of individuals within in the college. To be totally honest, I would love to have leadership opportunities for our students as well. Now, sometimes that can happen through student organizations and so forth. But that's not usually kind of part of the curriculum. And if there would be any way that we could provide that for, our students as they go through the program, I think that would be wonderful too. So those are really kind of the 5 areas that I would like to see and will encourage donors to kind of think about as they contemplate perhaps supporting or sending gifts our way, of hopefully plugging that into one of these 5, so that we can hopefully move forward in those areas. Um, I'm going to be quiet for the moment and just see if there are any comments and or reflections from the group in regards to either anything I've mentioned or probably more importantly, the stories that have been shared with our future, current, and former students. So any comments or questions that individuals would like to ask? Dr. Brady. Yes, sir.
Yeah, a couple of things. Let me start with Joe. You happen to know Sam Lathrop?
I do know Sam is one of my students.
Well, Sam Lathrop is my grandson. Very proud of him. And by the way, I think I can say that St. Francis is partly responsible for the 36 he got on his ACT.
He is a
And
bright.
while I've told my grandson all these years that he can't beat me at anything, I had to admit that he beat me in that. So,
He is a bright kid. He is very smart.
good kid. One of the things that occurred to me, Ray, as you were talking about leadership, is that I saw the announcement that Clint Longnecker has retired. Well, his specialty is leadership. Now, I don't know what he's going to do, but you know him, I think, and maybe he could be a resource somehow that you could connect with in that regard. So just a thought. Another thought I had as you were talking about computers, and this may or may not be a worthwhile thought, but when I was working with TSA, when we first started the idea of giving every student a computer, we went to 2 corporations and asked them whether or not as they turned over computers, personal computers, we could sort of be in line to receive their turned over computers, which are a couple of years old, but for the purposes of new students, it'd probably be good. So maybe there is a resource somewhere that you could connect with in that regard. So anyway, those are a couple of thoughts I had.
Yeah, that actually, Tom, that is a good idea. Unfortunately, sometimes computers are, if you will, embargoed because of the material that's kept on hard drives. For instance, at the university, we can't give our computers out to anyone else. They have to strip them of their hard drive. So sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the parameters that they have to work with. But no, that is a good idea, especially when you're trying to deal with the finances involved with what it would cost on a major level to have computers ready and available to students. Other comments or questions for our young people and their stories about scholarship? It's great.
Well, I just might say that for all 3, I mean, those are fantastic stories, and
yeah,
and it occurs to me as you think about how to market, the college, those kind of stories in the right way. I don't quite know how, but those are inspirational for the kinds of kids that just like some of you may not have known much about college at the University of Toledo. So anyway, it could be a marketing opportunity.
Yeah,
thanks.
we're trying really hard to do a really good job of getting the message out, and it really is about the students, as it always should be. Taylor is wonderful in kind of putting pieces together, and we have every intention of trying to be able to do that, so we can do just that: get the message out, let people know what good work we're doing, let people know the high quality of students that we have, and how they're basically kind of living the dream. And you know, if you get that out enough to individuals, as you know, Tom, um, individuals connect with that. They get it. They understand how important that is, um, and we're just we're ready to kind of be able to do that on a much more substantial level in the probably in the next few months. Certainly, the summer is going to be our prep time for kind of putting some of those packages together and moving that forward. So.
I just would like to say thank you to Ella, Chelsea, and Joe so much for coming to share your story. As someone who I graduated from college in 2017, I definitely understand the importance of scholarships as I am paying student loans right now. So it's definitely something that's, just so important. And I just appreciate you all for coming in and sharing that with us.
Absolutely. So, well, once again, thank you. I want to obviously thank everyone for being here tonight. And in particular, especially thank Dr. Denyer, um, obviously Ella, Chelsea, Joe, for sharing their stories, their viewpoints. Once again, it's just a pleasure highlighting the students that we have in the college and what they're presently doing and what they will be doing with their lives in the near future. Once again, this was recorded, so it will hopefully be available on demand in a few days. We'll have to work out the details, but we'll hopefully have that available. So have a very nice evening. Thank you again, and go Rockets. Take care, everyone.
Good luck.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
I liked Ella's artwork in the background.
Yes.
Great. All righty. Let's see. I think that's it. I'm going to hit stop recording. And
Congratulations, you did it.
I did. I did.